be a sponge, and then bring the juice.
By focusing on your improvement, by focusing on your progress, and eliminating any fixed mindset that you may have and acts of perfectionism, then you encourage your own mastery.
On some level, we do what we want to do 24 hours a day. Now, sometimes it may not seem like that, but if I'm choosing to work instead of sleep, what I'm actually saying is keeping my job is more important than sleeping.
I'm tired of this. I'm tired of getting beat. What can I do to get over this hump? So mentally, that's when I kind of put that forefront, like, hey, it's either all or nothing.
I like to put failure in quotations because I don't believe that failure is true failure if you're looking at it with the right mindset.
The truth is, the journey to greatness is hard. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes focus, and every day you have to decide what you value, what you want to pursue, and what you want to achieve. And if you dig deep enough, if you push hard enough, we all have what it takes to be great. Welcome to the Edge of Greatness.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Edge of Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Charles Schultz, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, head basketball coach for Pickerington Central High School in Columbus, Ohio, and the current Division I state champions, Eric Krueger. Coach, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Charles. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks here, a few weeks, and looking forward to speaking to you today. Have a good conversation, man.
Absolutely. So what does it feel like to finally reach the summit?
It's incredible. You know, the amount of support and people that have reached out to me has been really pretty awesome. People that you want to think, you know, you might even talk to a whole lot that have reached out as well. It's been crazy. And then as far as our team being able to accomplish a goal that we set out, you know, a long time ago to accomplish, you know, going into the season, obviously was a special thing. It's been incredible. It's been a lot of fun and just excited and, you know, for our team and our program and really a group of kids, you know, specifically this group of kids was a great group of kids to coach. And it's been awesome, man. It's been awesome. Definitely.
That's awesome. So obviously at a school like Central, there are some high expectations. And I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you manage those expectations on a year in, year out basis?
You know, I think with the kids, I think we try, as far as the expectations go, the kids, they're aware of those expectations. However, they're still kids. So I think trying to keep it to, you know, really a daily thing, you know, keep our mindset, our focus daily on what we need to accomplish and, you know, really kind of trust the process, you know, we're focused on the process of becoming the team we want to be and let the results kind of take care of themselves a little bit. It's something that we've emphasized and, you know, I've made this past year, really, I kind of being aware of those expectations, maybe even more so than the kids. I tried to really talk about the process and keeping our kids kind of, you know, I guess a little bit more focused on a single day at hand and the task at hand each day, and then kind of just keep building, you know, each day. We didn't spend. I mean, we talked about goals. However, we didn't. It's not something we talked about every single day to the point where it become almost like a burden or like something where it almost becomes a worry for the kids. You know, we talk about the goals beginning of the year, and then we just focus on the day, each day, and just kind of winning the day, and then just focus on the process. I think by doing that, the expectations for the kids, they don't get as wrapped up into that. They kind of just focus on what they need to do to be, you know, great that day in practice or film or weights, you know, so on and so forth.
So with Pickerington Central basketball, things are a little bit different than some of the other schools. For example, you have college coaches come to your open gyms, come in and watch you guys practice. Do you feel like that has a positive or negative impact on what your kids experience on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's something that, I think it's definitely a positive for the kids. We make it, we really try to establish a culture of like being able to perform and we play in a lot of big events. We do things differently than maybe some other teams in Central Ohio or in Ohio. And we really try to make sure we play the best schedule possible. Outside of our league schedule, obviously we can't control that. There's a lot of good teams in our league, of course, but like when it comes to our non-league and when it comes to some event games, we try to put our kids on that stage to be able to be comfortable in those moments. I think with college coaches coming to open gym in the fall, for example, or coming into practice, I think kids kind of get used to being like under that like watch a little bit, and I think then when it gets to those moments, those big moments in the tournament, for example, like I think they're just a little bit more confident and comfortable in those scenarios. One coach could have a lot of influence on a kid. Now there could be in a tournament game, there could be 15 coaches there, but having that practice with that one or two coaches watching that specific kid, now they're kind of just a little more used to it. So now when you get to the game, it's not something they really think about as much. As far as our team, in the fall, like you mentioned, open gym, I just think kids get kind of used to that. And it's something that we've kind of established as a culture over the years. I mean, we've been blessed to have, kids that are some great players, obviously, over the years. But it's also something that we've emphasized as a program to, we're always reaching out to college coaches to come into open gym, to come to practices, to keep on giving our kids opportunities to get recruited, obviously, first and foremost for college. But it's an opportunity for kids to just learn more too. They might have a conversation with a college coach after an open gym that they might have something that maybe I didn't have to say, or maybe one of my assistant coaches didn't have to say, and they kind of learn from that as well. And it just kind of just encompasses the whole overall, experience, I guess, of being a high school student and getting prepared, obviously, for college. So I think it's a really positive thing, honestly. Every once in a while, I think kids, also we don't want it to be like, well, hey, we're having an open gym or a practice. We're not gonna play as hard, go as hard, because there's not a college coach here either. Like, well, that's not it either. So it's and kids they're used to it enough by now to know, hey, we're going hard at all times anyway. So they kind of know that as it is. But I think our kids really, I think it's a positive thing for them.
How much time do you get to spend picking the brains of these college coaches while they're there?
Quite a bit, really. I mean, I usually have a chance to talk to them at open gym in the fall, for example. During the year, practice is a little bit more limited because I'm, running practice, but I do have an opportunity to step away and let my assistant coaches run whatever segment of practice we're in at that point to pick their brain a little bit. But I would say more so in the fall and open gym. I think that's a pretty good opportunity. It's open gym. We're not allowed to do anything anyway, so we're kind of just sitting on the sidelines watching the kids essentially run open gym. I think that over the years, it's been a blessing to talk to so many, legendary coaches, like Bob Huggins, I don't know, whoever really. I mean, you can go right down the line. There's just been a ton of coaches that have come out. Coach Holton's obviously been over here. Coach Mata before that, just, from a local standpoint from Ohio State. And just coaches from all over the country. Roy Williams, obviously been here quite a bit with Sterling Manley and Jeremiah Francis previously. So it's a great opportunity. And honestly, you can learn so much from every single coach, whether it's NAIA, Division III, Division II, or Division I. I think some of the best things, some of the best best conversations I've had have been, a coach from a smaller school. It doesn't always have to be a big school. I think some of those coaches obviously do a great job as well. So I think really across the board, it's been really helpful. I mean, I think it's unique the standpoint that you just kind of have some casual conversation, but you tend to get into some basketball things and some philosophical things from a basketball standpoint, and so it's been really helpful over the years, and it's been, I think, for our assistant coaches as well, and the kids. But I mean, I think from a coaching standpoint, yeah, it's been great.
How do you get your kids to buy in waiting for an opportunity? Obviously, at a school like Central, you're not going to come in day one unless you're an absolute stud and make an impact as a freshman or a sophomore. A lot of these kids are really talented and they have to wait. How do you encourage that waiting process?
Yeah, I think, now that we've been doing this for a while, it's been a decade or so, or a little over a decade, kids kind of know now when they do get to high school as freshmen, they kind of know they need to earn what they're going to get, obviously. But I think, and we've had some really talented kids come in as freshmen, and there's different levels of waiting. I think, we've like Devin Royal and Sonny Styles as freshmen, they played quite a bit, but they weren't all the way ready to lead a team yet. They weren't, they were still freshmen. They're still very young. Sonny started, Devin Royal came off the bench, but they both played a lot. We've had some kids like, Garner Wallace is a really talented kid for us as well. And, he had to kind of wait his turn too. I think one thing we've tried to do is when you do have some younger kids that have a chance to be good, have a chance to be a really, big impact, kids with your program, whether it's by their sophomore or junior or even senior year, is try to bring them up during the tournament, kind of get them around the experience. We brought a couple of freshmen up this year during the tournament, and I think that kind of dangles the carrot a little bit from a motivation standpoint. They kind of see the older guys and what, they're able to do on the basketball court. And then they're also there in practice, and they're there in the locker room, and they're there supporting. And then when their number is called, hopefully, they get a chance to get out there, which is always exciting for them. But I think it's like, it almost feeds their motivation and kind of fuels them a little bit, like, man, I'm not that far away from being on that floor at Dayton Arena in the state semifinals or state finals. Like, I'm down the bench right now, but like I'll be there if I can continue to work and put myself in a good position, to get better. Basically, I got a chance to be out there. So I think it encourages them. I think that's something we've tried to do over the years. You kind of identify those younger, talented kids that might not be all the way ready yet, but they got a chance to be really good, and you want to kind of bring them into the process even at a young age. That way, when they are either sophomores or juniors, they're ready to go, and they're able to contribute at a high level, and it's not their first time around being in district finals or regional finals or that type of thing. So I think that's one way to kind of bring those younger, talented kids, and I think they know, like, buying in. They know where they're at once they get in practice. Yes, they're talented, but then they're playing against older guys who are more talented, or it's hard because they're just older. But like, they kind of know they've got some work to do to get to the level of where we want them to be from a Tiger basketball standpoint and our expectations. So I think it ends up being really positive for them. But the kids buy in, though. They do buy in, and if kids don't buy in, then we just don't have them on the team. From a varsity standpoint, it could be on freshman or GB, and we can have a conversation after their year. But it's everything matters. Like even every kid you have on the tournament roster, like it's all very key. I think for a team to win a state title, like everything's got to be. Got to control as much as you can control, and put our kids. We need kids on the bench that are going to be encouraging other guys that are playing, that are positive. Because it's kind of like it really spreads. It spreads throughout the team, and so I think this group, obviously this year, everyone's bought in, and it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do over the years. It's a difficult thing to accomplish, I think, with a young group of kids, or just a group of kids in general in high school. But I think that's where you have the conversations. I think, like I said, if there's a kid or two that maybe they are talented, but they're not willing to kind of wait their turn, you have that conversation with them and kind of level set them a little bit. And most times, more often than not, that conversation will be a positive conversation, and they're able to move forward and, end up being fine. But it is really key, though. Every kid on the team, I think, is very key in the success of a team.
One of the things I really noticed about this year's group is their unitedness and the leadership. What are some of the things that you implement to help build that leadership in your culture?
I think our leadership, as far as our group this year, it started with 3 kids, Josh Harlan, Devin Royal, and Sonny Stiles. I think those 3 kids were our captains. The rest of the group knew they were leaders for us. I think having conversations with them quite a bit, really, I would say maybe every couple of weeks, having a conversation with those kids individually and talking about leadership, talking about leading the team when they're out there on the floor, like talking about the importance of bringing a team together in moments of adversity. It's a lot of conversations with those specific kids about leadership. And then, you want to see it out there with the other kids. You want to see them leading those kids in practice. Is always very important, I think. If you can't do it in practice, if you can't get it, as a head coach and also our coaching staff, if we're on the kids and we're trying to implore them to give us, maximum effort. And, I think there's situations in practice where one of those kids can kind of corral our group, like, come on, we're not giving everything we got right now. We got it. Every day counts. Every day counts. I think that's where it starts, now throughout the team, I think there is more, there's more leaders than just those 3 kids, of course. I think they see that example, and they see how hard those 3 kids are working and how they're leading. I think it gives them the opportunity to come to the forefront a little bit. And I think we had some other kids, like you mentioned, that unified togetherness is definitely our group this year. And I think it's more than just those 3 kids, even though they're captains and, they are leaders, on the floor. I think there's a lot of kids throughout our team in certain moments stepped up and had acts of leadership, So I think the biggest thing is conversations with kids for us. I think I would say that is pretty key. We've talked about leadership as a team, and we've had team discussions as well. But I really think those individual conversations with those 3 kids, and then kind of giving them some examples and some things that I'm looking for as a head coach from a leadership standpoint from them. And then in those moments of adversity, which are gonna come without a doubt during the season, and especially during the tournament, I felt like those guys are ready. And you're right, the unified together, I'm not sure exactly the word you use there, but that's definitely our group this year. They were very connected overall. And I think their leadership definitely, I think it definitely shone through, during the tournament run. And I try to encourage the other kids. I said, hey, it might not be Devin Royal or Sonny Stiles. It could be you as the 7th or 8th man off the bench in the rotation. It could be you, as a starter, but maybe isn't a guy that scores as much as other. There's going to be certain moments, and it's not just about scoring. Obviously, there's going to be certain moments where you have the ability to step up, and every single kid on this team is equally as important as the next, and all the way down to the 15, 1 through 15. And I really try to emphasize that emphasize that with the kids and make sure they know that, like, hey, like, you matter. Like, your effort in practice today matters. To push this kid over here, and then who's going to also in turn push them. Like, everybody matters. Everybody has a key role in this process that we're trying to accomplish for the goals we want to accomplish for the season. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I have a follow-up though, because you mentioned several times now that you have conversations, and I'm curious how much or how often do you pull kids aside and have those one-on-ones?
Quite often. I think during practice is just easy. It could be something just saying, hey, need your energy right now, need your effort. Come on, get these guys going to one of those kids. It could be after practice or before practice for just maybe even 2 or 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be an extremely long conversation every single time. I think honestly with kids' attention span and having and going from school all day, all straight into practice, like it sometimes is more effective. Those quick conversations, or even just like you said, pulling someone aside during practice for 30 seconds. I think kind of those reminders, and then maybe before practice for a minute or two, like I think those tend to be equally as effective as sitting down and having a really long conversation. And I would say throughout the year, those longer conversations have already taken place. So you might have some follow-up conversations with specific kids, really all the kids, but I think those kids we talk about from a leadership standpoint, it might just be shorter conversations now, because now they know what they need to accomplish, what they're looking to accomplish, what I'm looking for, and what we want to see happen out there on the practice court. And a lot of it is in practice. A lot of it is in practice. I think you get to the game and you've got the game plan, obviously from a basketball standpoint. Your coaching staff has discussed it, but the kids have to go out there and perform. And I think so. A lot of these conversations take place during practice, but I do agree with you. This like a side conversation or something kind of a little more impromptu tends to be just as effective, probably maybe even more effective, a little more sporadic. And it's good to kind of stay on kids and remind them. And then they start, as the year goes on, I feel like they start kind of recognizing that stuff during practice more, and they tend to start doing some things on their own more, and they might not need as many reminders, which is good. I mean, because obviously it shows their growth, from a leadership standpoint.
How would you describe your coaching philosophy?
Well, I mean, I think I'm a big believer in, I think togetherness, connected, cohesive, like having a group of kids really buy into what we're trying to accomplish is huge. If we're kind of staying away from just the basketball side of it, I mean, those are all things that, I mean, this could be, your job at work. It can be something sports related, or it can be not sports related. These are all kind of things that are a little more outside of basketball. I think from, individually from my standpoint, I mean, I coach with a lot of passion. I coach with, but I want to, make sure the kids know I have confidence in them. I think from a basketball philosophical side of things, we're going to be who we are. We want to defend and rebound at an elite level, because that's something that I believe you can really control. Defense and rebounding is effort. It's and I believe you can control effort. Offensively, you might lose a little bit more control offensively. But I really believe, like, Tiger basketball over the years, what we've been is we've been able to defend and rebound at an elite level. We want to get out in transition and be unselfish and share the basketball, and then in the half court, we want to be able to execute and be unselfish as well. Put our guys in spots where they can be successful offensively. But I really think Tiger basketball is we're going to defend and rebound. We're going to play extremely hard. We're going to play together, and we're going to play smart. We're going to play as a team. Those are the things that I try to focus on, each and every year with any team, whether it's a super talented team or a somewhat talented team or maybe not as talented a team. Those are things I think we can, as a coach, we can kind of control and really try to influence. But I really think, being connected as a group, being unified, the things that we kind of talk about are just so key. Toughness, toughness is something I think we can control as well. That it kind of goes hand in hand with playing hard a little bit. But I think that's another thing, that's something that within, that we can control on our end, or we can try to control as coaches, and we want our team, our kids to do those things, obviously. But I try to give the kids a lot of confidence. I try to let them play with some freedom offensively. If you play extremely hard defensively, and you play hard in general, and you're rebounding and doing the things you want to do on the defensive end, I'm going to have more confidence, and you have a little bit more wiggle room on the offensive end to play with some freedom, and it kind of gives you a little bit of it's like if you do these things, and you'll have a little more freedom. Now, if you don't defend and rebound, but it's going to be hard for you to get on the floor first and foremost. It's going to make it tough for you to play. That's an expectation. It's a way of life as far as what we do on a daily basis within our program. So kids know that, and I think they also know that if they do those things, they get to get out and transition and play with some confidence and freedom offensively. I'm not going to overly restrict them every single possession. I mean, I think it's hard for kids to play that way. Like, if they're playing so hard on one end, and then the other end, they got to come down and think about everything they're doing offensively. It doesn't really feel as natural. So, I mean, like I said, those, connected, playing hard, toughness, controlling what we can control from a defensive standpoint is very key for our guys. And I really, off the court, I think I really want to encourage kids to get along and do things as a team, and go get a team meal, come over to our house and hang out, and play some video games, that type of thing. It all matters. I think I had a college coach, Coach Shaka Smart, actually. He talked about, we talked about, like, as a coach, he's like, you get very in the weeds with the intricacies of basketball, the offense, defense, the scheme of what we're trying to accomplish on both sides of the basketball, just the overall game. He's like, but don't take for granted, especially as you get closer to the tournament, the value of a team being connected, doing some things outside of basketball, getting together, having a team meal, going to a movie, having the kids over at my wife and I's house and just hanging out. Like, those things are equally as important during a tournament, because when those kids are out there on the floor, you lose a little bit of control. Your game plan is set, and you've tried to put everything into place as best you can, but like that connected, being connected, and that togetherness on the floor during moments of adversity, and guys actually liking each other and caring about each other and supporting each other is huge. It's just as valuable, probably more valuable, right? During those moments. So I think that was really, like we talked about earlier about coaches coming in and talking. I think that was something that was great. I really thought about that getting closer to the tournament. I was like, man, we should do a couple things, maybe a couple things here throughout the next couple of weeks. Going to the tournament, maybe get a team, whatever it is, maybe a team meal, hang out, that type of stuff, because I think it can make a difference, and I feel like it definitely did.
You mentioned a few times trying to control what you can control, because a lot of the game is uncontrollable. One of the things that stood out to me a lot was your team consistently had positive body language when things weren't going well. What are some things that you do on your end to help them understand that value, to be able to do it at such a high level?
Right. I think positive body language starts in practice. Because the game of basketball, even though in the practice setting, and then you obviously get to the game setting, there's still a lot of similar things taking place. You're still trying to execute offensively. You're still trying to defensively be hard to score on against the opposing team. So, body language is key. If there's times of adversity in practice and you can really kind of push the kids in practice, kind of like that. I think our program is definitely an iron sharpens iron type of scenario. I think our kids, you're right, because there's kids that don't start for us, like you kind of mentioned earlier, that could probably start for a lot of their high schools. But they've bought into what we're trying to accomplish. They know their time is coming at some point if they're younger. And I think really that body language starts in practice. I'm a very positive coach. I'm not a coach that panics. I wouldn't say I'm not someone who yells all the time. I think kids tend to tune out coaches like that at times over the years as we've kind of, society has changed a little bit. Coaches have changed a little bit, and you got to evolve. I think when I do get on the kids, when I do yell at the kids, it's more as a group typically, but it's also a little more, it has a little more meaning as opposed to constantly doing it. So I think, but when you talk about body language, I think that starts in practice. I think getting on the kids during practice, during drills, and if we are going live during a certain segment of practice, like I think that body language is really key then. Like I think you got to address it and talk about it then. And it could be individually. Maybe it's a couple kids you pull aside. Hey, you doing all right? What's going on today? Is there? These kids have a bunch of stuff going on. They could come. They have girlfriends, a math test, maybe something going on at home. It could be A, B, and C, all the above. You just don't really know. So I think talking about that body language during practice is important. And then I think if you can address it then, I think it better prepares your group of kids for the moment during the games. And I agree with you. We definitely had positive body language as a team. Maybe I'm overly positive to a fault. I'm a very optimistic, positive person. But I do think that helps us in a lot of times as well. Though it ends up being a real positive thing for the kids. But I am a positive, coach. I think we talk about philosophy and kind of, you mentioned that a little bit as far as my style. Like, yeah, I'm going to be very positive with the kids. Like, it's a great opportunity. I try to tell the kids every day we step into the gym, whether it's practice, whether we're getting ready for a game, whether it's a shoot around, weightlifting session, film session, it's an opportunity to do something positive and be around, your teammates, your friends, your brothers. That camaraderie is really big. And I really talked, with this group, I will say going into the year, something I did mention quite a bit to them was like, to do something special as a group is very rare. And I think they probably got tired of me saying that, then it kind of, as the year went on, they kind of started buying into what I was saying. When we really started to come together as a team, but to do something special as a group is just very rare. We're as there's a lot of special moments for, people individually, and then at the workplace. It could be graduating high school and college. It could be having a newborn, a successful birth of a child. And that's special. These are different, various things of special. But to do something special collectively, it takes a lot. Like, it takes a lot of things to be right, a lot of things to be in place. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of diligence to daily stay at it. And I really stress that with this group of kids, as far as doing something special. We have a chance to do something special, and you'll never forget it. It's something that will live with you till the day you die. Like, you'll never, if we can accomplish, what we accomplished, obviously being state champions, like, It's something that's very rare and very special, and it will always have that. And we've had a lot of special teams. We've had some very successful teams over the years. We've got, districts and regionals. We've been to state previously. We won a state in 2012. Obviously, I was an assistant coach during that time. So I kind of knew what it took, like being an assistant coach on that staff in 2012 with Karis LeVert, Jay Sean Tate, Connor Kern, and Taco Charlton, and so on and so forth. Like, I knew what it took, but I had to get the kids to fully buy into that and really believe that we could do something special as a group. Because sometimes talking about it tends to be just talking about it with kids. And then I felt like during the year, there was a moment that, our group went from being a team that can be really good and having a great year, which is an awesome thing, to being a group that believed they could do something special collectively together. And I think that was at Gahanna, when we played at Gahanna, to be honest with you, because Gahanna had a great team. They were a senior-laden group. The expectation was they were the best team, in Central Ohio, and they were a great team. But I felt like when we beat them at Gahanna, our kids really it just felt different. It felt different after the game. It wasn't me just kind of beating them down with the whole concept of that. And I think half the group's kind of hearing me. And I think a few kind of hear, are fully bought in. Maybe a few over here aren't bought in. Like, after that game, because you work for that during the year, that togetherness. Like, I think after that game, collectively, from head coach to assistant coach down to the team, team all the way down to the team manager, like, you're like, wow, like we can do something special. Like, and I think from that point forward, like our resilience as a group and our like just cohesiveness and just the level of how bought in the group was at like a extremely high level, extremely high level. And I think the sense of urgency Sonny Styles had this year was huge. Him, I joke about him declaring, that he was going to be, this is last year basically. Like, so once his urgency went up as a leader, we talked about him, along with Josh Harlan and Devin Royal. It's like his sense of urgency went up, and then everyone else started to kind of follow it. Like Devin Royal and Josh Harlan, like from experience standpoint and being great players and great kids, like it all just kind of just came together. I think so. That ended up being a blessing in disguise. Now I would have missed Sonny next year,
yeah.
but I tell you what, him declaring to leave early and get to Ohio State in May of 2022 instead of next year ended up being a blessing. I think his sense of urgency, knowing it was his last time around, went to an extremely high level, and I think other kids just continued to follow that on the floor. But I like I said, I go back to that first game at Gahanna in early January. I think at that point, the team really like felt they could do something special as a group. And it wasn't just me telling them that they could do something special. They really, truly, truly believed at that point. And it was everybody. It was every single kid. It was every single coach down the team manager. Like, everybody believed. And I think that's with our group and our talent that we have. And I think that was a dangerous thing. Obviously, it would end up being something that was special by us winning the state title. But I think at that point is definitely when our group, like full circle, became not just a group of kids that love playing basketball and they were good, teammates. And it was like, this is like the epitome of like a unified, together team out to accomplish a goal and set aside any personal successes really for the betterment of the team.
How do you get them to stay hungry now that they've reached the top and want to do that again?
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about really the last couple of weeks here. I'm not sure. I was on another conversation a couple weeks ago, and they asked the same question. And, you know, I think it's still the process of staying hungry. I think is every year is a new challenge. Now that we have a decent amount of kids, and quite a few kids coming back from the team that we just won state with. I still think it kind of goes back to the daily process. You know, we've got an opportunity to do something special again, but the hard work and what we do on a daily basis is gonna determine our success. You know, I think you've got to pull the kids that are going to be seniors. You got to those conversations from a leadership standpoint, just kind of like last year going into the year, does need to happen again. And I need to identify, you know, one or two more guys along with Devin Royal that I feel like are going to be kids that can really lead this group. And then I just think it really just goes back to just getting back to work. I mean, you know, it's hard. That's a hard question to answer because I think it's something I'm still trying to figure out myself, to be completely honest with you. I know I'm hungry. I know our coaching staff will be hungry. I believe the kids will be hungry as well. However, how do we kind of get them to be just as hungry as they were this past year? And I wish I had a better answer. I really do. I know it goes back to the daily work, but I think that's something that might evolve a little bit, because this is the first time around for us. You know, well, it's the first time around for me as a head coach winning the state title. So it's a question I'm asking myself right now. How can I get this group to fully buy into the level that we bought in last year, to be hungrier than they were last year? And that's a very fair question. And I wish I had a better answer right now, Charles. I mean, I do think it's something that's going to evolve, and it's something I'll be thinking about more and more as we get ready to come back here. But I know one thing. One thing I would say is our level of work, staying in the gym, continuing to work hard daily. I think it starts there regardless. It starts there regardless. I think maybe a side question of that might be, how do I get this group to be as unified and unselfish and together and as selfless and resilient of this upcoming year as they were this past year, especially with a lot of those kids being back? Is great. That base is there to do that. I think that's kind of an equally as important question. I think they're both good questions. So
yeah, no, I would agree. I think that those two keys will ultimately determine the level of success that you have next year. Because like you said, you got enough pieces coming back. The talent's not going to be lacking. It's going to be the little things on determine your success.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I agree 100%.
So as we begin to wind down here, what I want to do is give my listeners an opportunity to follow your program, follow you, see what you guys are doing next. So where can my listeners connect and follow Tiger basketball and what you've got going on?
Yeah, just our Twitter is at PC Tigers Hoops, and then Instagram is at PC Tiger Hoops as well. Actually, I forget now off the top of my head. but no, we're definitely on Instagram, Facebook a little bit as well. But most of the Twitter and Instagram is pretty easy to follow us on there. We'll be doing some things coming up, obviously, with our Tiger basketball camp and stuff we typically always do. But yeah, I think Twitter and Instagram are the best resources, honestly. It seems to be that's where we're most active. You know, like I said, Facebook as well, but much more active on Twitter and Instagram because it seems to be a little more accessible and easier to get to.
Sounds
for
good.
People. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Coach Krueger, I appreciate your time and thank you for joining me today. I wish you nothing but success going forward. I'm excited to see what you guys do in the coming years here.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate your time. As always, guys, keep reaching for the stars, fall flat on your face. But remember, whenever we fall, always get up.
Thank you for joining us today on the Edge of Greatness podcast. If you haven't yet, please take a minute now to subscribe and review our show. Join us again next week as we continue to dig deeper into the key components of greatness. The path to greatness is never linear, so remember to keep pursuing greatness no matter what. Keep stretching your abilities, reach for the stars, and fall flat on your face. But remember, no matter what happens, whenever we fall, always get up. Until next time, I'm Charles Schultz, and this was the Edge of Greatness Podcast.